Let's start with Jeremy. Jeremy, what did you bring?
Gonna bring my unmuted self. I brought these. Picking out a specific one would have been impossible, if I'm honest. So yeah.
The records, for those that don't know what these thin slices of.
Yeah, the vinyl behind me, mostly 12 inches,
Okay.
mostly singles, but.
Mostly single, 12-inch vinyl. Okay, well, for those who were born in an era that was different, we'll get into that in a moment. Thank you. And Lexie, what did you bring?
I brought, I wish I could tell you how long it is, but I brought my flute. Let me lift it up so you can see. I brought my flute that I started playing in the 6th grade.
Okay, your flute. Excellent. Well, you can already see today's topic is all about musicians and music. My name is Valerie Hope. Thank you all so much for joining this episode of Not Quite Strangers. This podcast is all about connecting people so we can build connection. We can also inspire curiosity. Who knows, we might even challenge the status quo throughout our conversation. I have two phenomenal guests who have never met. Or actually, we met maybe like 20 minutes ago. They introduced each other 20 minutes ago, but I know them. And I'll start with Jeremy. Jeremy, you and I met when we both traveled with Up With People back in the 90s, 1998, 99, something like that.
99, wasn't it? Yeah.
Woo! Yes. So way back when, and then we've been Facebook friends pretty much ever since. This is probably the first conversation that we've had since the 90s.
Pretty much, yeah.
And besides like some chats, texting, comments and stuff like that. So, and I invited you, Jeremy, because every time I've seen your posts on Facebook, and one of the few reasons that I still engage after 20 years, because you share so much of your passion for music. I know you're a DJ. I remember you doing at the beginning of the quarantine, you started doing your, what did you call that? Your
house coat sessions.
Your house coat sessions, where you would stand with your turntable, wearing your house coat and play music. And I was so into that. And there were so many other things that you post around what you love about music that I was like, okay, I need to find someone to share Jeremy with. And the person that came to mind is Lexie, my long lost friend, not lost, but longtime friend. Lexie and I, you and I have been friends for about 20 years also. Mm-hmm. And we're in more regular contact. We both live in Dallas, whereas Jeremy lives in Liverpool in UK right now. But Lexie, you and I met because we used to work together at the Chamber of Commerce. And one of the things that I always admire so much about you is not only are you a musician, right? You showed your flute, you also play the guitar, but you and your sister go out of your way and invest your time and money in having these musical experiences. And you introduced me to the versus battles.
Yeah.
So I was like, Jeremy and Lexie are the two I want to introduce. So first of all, before I go any further, welcome to the show. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
It's good to be
here. Why did you guys say yes?
Because first of all, it's been 20 years. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to hear people that I don't get to speak to people from 20 years ago very often, put it that way. Obviously I have my friends from home and everything, but we shared an experience that not very many other people will understand, let alone experience themselves. So when you ask me, it's like when almost anybody from that group that we traveled with asked me something, it's like, well, yeah, because we have a different understanding of each other. So you wouldn't have asked me if it wasn't going to be interesting. So I had to be here.
Yay.
I love that. My answer is actually very similar, but simply put, it's because you asked. I'm so invested in your success and in these types of conversations. I think when people that are different, people that have never met, kind of understand what it looks like to kind of go on this journey of life together and ask questions or get to know one another. I think there's such value in that. And so I'm excited. It'll be fun and scary.
What do you mean by fun and scary?
Well, it's both of things, and I'm not afraid of either one. I think fun because music is so fun. Even when you have completely the potential of having completely different experiences as it relates to music. Scary because I mean, this is a podcast that you're recording. You got to wonder about how am I going to look? How am I going to sound? Am I going to sound intelligent? Am I going to know the answer to the question? All that.
It makes sense to more than just me.
Yes.
Oh, I'll let y'all know. It may not make sense to me either. I mean, I've had my moments on this podcast that I'm like, what am I talking about right now? What did that person say? I think I was distracted. What should I say now? Oh, and what I've learned and I'm learning is the best way to have fun in these conversations, not only podcasts, but in life, is just to be present and just to pay attention and notice what has heart and meaning for people. And so I'm so grateful that both of you said yes. I don't take for granted that meeting a stranger in public, for the public, it's different. It does take something. But I think more than anything, I was just looking forward to the two of you sharing what inspires you so much about music. Music plays such a large part of my life, I do not have, vinyls, LPs behind me, nor do I have an instrument close at hand, but I've experienced both, right? We used to have records. I remember when I was a kid and my mom and dad, we had those turntables that were like furniture, like pieces of furniture that you have to lift up, like the wooden box. Yeah. We would put like toys on it at first, because that's music. But I remember she would play, like my mom was usually the music person when we were growing up. So she would play things like, remember the Bee Gees were like our house cleaning music. So to this day, I listen to the Bee Gees and I'm like, oh, I want to vacuum. Anyway, so talking about music, and the reason I thought the two of you would hit it off so well, or at least share so much. Let's go back to your vinyl collection, Jeremy. Tell us, first of all, for those that do not know, because there might be a generation of people who are not familiar, show us what it is and tell us what it's about for you.
I'm just going to pull out a random one.
Sure.
Which is that one, which is Biggie, Life After Death, the posthumous album. But
okay, he went straight like legend. Okay, random.
I mean, just so I can just pull up that one, and that's gonna be a Destiny's Child Survivor.
Okay, now he's flexing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But then in a different corner, you have. Let me think. I'm not gonna do that one too. That one's old. Your Rolling Stones, just. Okay. But what, like you said, you used to put your toys on your records. I never did that, and it was a very. My parents always had records, not as many as this, and this isn't all of them by far. I mean, in Bermuda, where I'm from, are the rest of them. So they live there, and I haven't even had time to organize those. But like, I used to find the records underneath. We used to have the stacked turntables and the amp and the tape deck and whatever, and the records were under the TV, and I would just pull them out. And there were certain records, like there's Revolver from the Beatles, that I always remember playing. Like we had the old school turntable as well, where it dropped down and then came. It was all automatic. Mm-hmm. So I used to like stacking records on it just to see it do what it did. But that I remember. What's the famine one that Michael Jackson and everybody.
We Are the World.
We Are the World. Yeah.
I had that on 12-inch single, and I just remember playing that. And my mother was into Roberta Flack and a lot of old soul, so there was some there. My dad's from Barbados, so there was calypso and other things. So, and they met in Jamaica, so there was some reggae there and that sort of thing. So I remember that from very young. And my sister started playing the piano at, I think she must have been 8 or 7. And when she would practice in the house, I would just sit there and imitate her. And so my parents started me in piano very young. So as much as I tried to get away from it in my quote unquote formative years, when we were being battered over the head about getting a degree and doing an office job and having a life. I really tried to get away from it, but it just kept creeping back in. So
Get away from music?
Well, get away from being like you doing it as a job. I could never see I was never too far away. Like when I went to university, I studied psychology in Florida. And then sooner or later, people found out I had a whole bunch of CDs. So I became a DJ at the school. Then I found some turntables. So I started buying vinyl at a record store in town, made a really good connection there with a group called Poison Dart, or Sound Clash, which is the other side of things. I mean, I could go very deep into that too. Playing reggae with my friends and clashes and whatever else. So there was always, and then I did Up With People, as you said, and there was music all through that. That was another year and a half of my life, and then I came out of it, and I was like, okay, I need to get a job. I need to figure that out, and I just ended up coming to England and doing media with recording, and then the recording took over more of it, and I've been lucky in my career where I've just slipped into things. Like I was studying recording at this school. One of the guys who was security, big up to Erwin, he noticed that I know what I was doing in live situations. So he's like, okay, come and work with me. And since then, he's the guy that got me into all my live jobs. And from there, I've expanded into other things but it's, as I said, it's always come back, even as I've tried to go and say, I need to go and get a real job.
They pull you back in.
It's like, okay, yeah, but it curves around somehow. And it's like, you know how to do that. And it takes off again, except for this past year, of course, because we haven't been able to do anything.
But it's by design. That's, you're gifted with the interest and the environment, and there you go, man. Your parents must be so proud. Lexie was making, Lexie, I saw you making some faces and some comments. So what was that about?
No. So one of the things you said at the beginning was when you hear the Bee Gees, it triggers you to go clean. And I think that's kind of a metaphor for what music is. It is a soundtrack for people's lives.
Yes.
And I make posts every once in a while on Twitter saying what my soundtrack for the day is. And it's like, especially when you're exposed to music at a young age. I know in the African diaspora, whether you're African American, African Bayesian, wherever, Saturday mornings, some music is going to go on and your mom is going to go tell you to clean, whether it's the room, kitchen, living room, wherever. And so I'm not going to say it's a stereotype, but there is something wonderful about us having this trigger when it comes to music. And that's what music means to me. It is a soundtrack, whether it be for the happy times, for running, for working, all the spectrum of emotions, that I feel. It happened at an early age, in my home, but then I eventually became a musician. I mean, I don't know what happened. I walked into a band hall before 6th grade and was like, Mom, I want to play the flute. And I promise you, I had not thought about a flute before that moment, because I've thought about this, like, what in the world made me say flute? But it, along with some incredible people in my life, Patty Grubbs, Mr. Martinez, our band director, really set me on a road to not just being a musician, but all the life skills you learn when you learn an instrument. And I'm forever grateful. And like you said in the intro, I play the flute, I play the guitar, I sing, and they're foundational to creative Lexie. But I actually, as opposed to Jeremy, I actually took the office job. And I love it. I love my office job, and I love being an artist as well.
First of all, I'm just enjoying this conversation so much already, and we haven't even scratched the surface. But I also play an instrument. like you, Jeremy, did piano. I think started at age 10, and I hated it, first of all, because Mr. Hancock, my teacher, would make me do like really boring stuff. He was this older gentleman, used to wear this. We were in Hawaii. He always wore this little puka shell necklace. I mean, it was just like old school dude. But he taught me like my fundamentals, and we moved around a lot. So every time we moved, my mom would find a new piano teacher, and they all had like this is what piano music is.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I probably had 4 or 5 teachers in my youth. And it wasn't until like my junior or senior year in high school where we were living in Alabama, and I started lessons with the pianist at our church. And she was like, what do you want to play? I'm like, I get to choose? You mean I don't have to play like a bunch of minor keys and jazz and classical? Like, I get to choose. So I chose like Broadway show tunes and Christmas music. And then she had me, and I used to have this phobia. I'd call it a phobia because I hated the recitals. You know, we'd go and have performance for the parents and, other students. And I could not stand them. And I would always get so nervous and never really felt gifted at the piano. I always felt like I was a little bit like just making this work. But there was something about playing at church. Now, I wasn't playing for the choir necessarily. I maybe played once for the choir, but she would introduce me to like, why don't you play the prelude or the postlude? What would you like to play? And I'm like, well, I'm loving this Michael W. Smith song. Play that. And it was just, she really helped me merge my love for music with supporting others. Like, and those are the two things that I really enjoyed. And like you, Lexie, the soundtrack, I literally I have this board. We created a little, journey of your life, river of life board when I've been training as a leader. And on the edge of it is like this carton, piece of carton that has all these photos and images, but around the edges, I wrote all the songs that have made an impact on my life. So, I mean, everything from, I remember my first vinyl was Michael Jackson's, which was the one with the tiger. That
dang it. Something
in the black background. Was it
yes, I know. That was before Thriller.
Yes, it was before Thriller.
Rock With You was on it, I think.
No, this is before. Which one?
Off the Wall?
Yes,
no,
I think
Off the Wall. No, was it Off the Wall?
No, I think Off the Wall.
With the white tiger?
Yeah, and he's laying down and he's on his arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it Off the Wall? Come on, Jeremy, pull it out there.
No, if he pulls out a signed copy.
I will before the end of the day.
No worries. But I remember
it's in Bermuda.
No, it's here. I know it's here.
It's here.
I know it's here.
Anyhow, but those are just like everything that you guys are saying is music has been so meaningful. So I'm curious about the genres. Like both of you alluded to different genres of music making an impact, whether it was through the music you played or the music you listened to. So how did you determine what genre spoke to you, or how has that developed? Lexie, why don't you start, and then I want to hear from you.
Sure. So one of the things I'm really thankful for is in starting off with flute, and with that came classical training, so a grounding in classical flute music. It kind of automatically, unbeknownst to me, kind of broke my barrier to going outside what would be the norms of what I'd listen to. So between that and my family, I would certainly listen to classical music, but that was typically prep for some flute thing that I was doing. My brother is huge into reggae. And so even though I wasn't necessarily a reggae listener, I have become a reggae fan, and love R&B, soul, hip hop. But it really, my own musical taste, and then being around so many diverse people, whether it be economic, racial, social, whatever, it exposed me to all different types of music. And the earlier for me that I did that, the more I kind of came grounded in that's the norm. And so, I can feel comfortable going to Gloria's restaurant here in Dallas and going to dance some salsa, even if I don't understand the words, because I can understand kind of that common language of music. About the connection with people and with culture and all of that. So yeah.
I mean,
Common language of music.
It's really actually quite similar. And I have to show, like, of course, my parents are the ones that have allowed me to basically do whatever. They're like, they can see that it always comes back to the same thing. So they help to facilitate me to become what I am, which is the main thing. But again, it's the same thing with piano. I started out with Suzuki piano so doing all the scales and all of that type of stuff. And then I think I finished with them at about maybe 10, 11 maybe. It must have been just before high school. I can't remember. But then I went, same thing, the organist at my church. So she started teaching me, and she started to show me chords and things like that. So coming out of Suzuki, where you had to memorize and play, and then going into this where it's like chords and everything else, I have two problems that have come out of that. One is I hate reading music. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. I would much rather just listen and do. And then started in high school, same thing. The option was cookery or the band. And I was like, well, so
which did he choose?
Yeah, it's like, so I started playing the saxophone in high school and did that. And my saxophone teacher, like outside of the school band, was very much jazz, very much all that sort of stuff. So I remember the first tune I played was the not the Pink Panther. What's the other what's that other old school
Chopsticks.
Stacy Keach. Anyway, it was I can't even remember the name of the song now. But anyway, there was that piece of music that it used to come on. It was the theme song for this detective guy show, this old school PI. Stacy Keach. Anyway, it'll come to me again. But it's the same thing. I like in Bermuda, we didn't get MTV, so we didn't get MTV Raps and all that sort of stuff. But hip hop was very important because we had BET, so we had Video Soul, with the guy with the eyes, Rap City, those sorts of things. So hip hop, and then all my family lived in New York, so East Coast hip hop became something that I really, really liked early on. But because we had much music from Canada, we got a lot more of the rock and the indie, and we had old school VH1 before they would play anything with any sort of soul to it. So I say that really. But then, as I said, I mean, growing up, we couldn't touch the radio, so when we got in the car in the morning going to school with my dad, it was country, because, and not like pop country. This was pre-pop country, so this was
Charlie Pride.
Pride. This is all of those twangy, really country. That's what I listened to on the way to school. And then FM 89 was the channel. They played all the smooth stuff at the end of all that adult contemporary. Then they had so my music always was everywhere. My focus was hip hop. I mean, and then you say reggae. I mean, I'm part of a sound system. Big up Ricochet sound system. And what we did, we play reggae. So I've got dub plates there. Actually, that's part of what my master's is restoring dub plates. That's what I'm going to do for my dissertation.
What's dub plates? What's that?
I can show you what that is. Hold on. So pull up this one. It's not. Oh, that's not even it. See, you made me move.
You just tell us what it is.
To show you, because
Yeah,
could
show
show
or
you.
just tell.
I have to show you as well. So these are from Playboy Sound. This is another friend of mine. Basically, they're one-off recordings of an artist that may basically rewrite his song with the name of your group in it. And, you know, so you use these in Sound Clash. So whoever has the best one wins, basically, at a very basic level. So these are culture in a 10-inch lacquer record, basically. And they're one-offs. So this one, it may be similar somewhere else, but this one is just that one. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So because of the movement of DJing from analog to, you know,
Digital.
physical to laptops, basically, and USBs, these actual pieces of vinyl are just sitting because people either have those digitally copied already and blah, blah, blah. So they just sit. So they get dirty, they get moldy, they get, you know, and they weren't meant to be played a lot anyway, because they're actually master vinyls for 12 inches that you normally buy in a shop, basically.
Those are the creators of that.
Valerie, I'm sure you have a whole list of questions, but he said a couple of things that I've got to dive into.
Go, Bill, dive.
One, it's a favor to ask. You know the reggae artist Coffee?
Yes.
He comes over to the UK. She is yet to come and do a concert in the United States. If you could hook your United States brothers and sisters up by telling her, please come, we deeply appreciate it.
I think you may need to speak more to your government than her.
Oh no! Okay.
That's always been the
conversation offline.
I'm sure she's been trying. I mean, the thing is, from what I understand about the little I understand about Jamaican, as Jamaican people is trying to get out, they have to get visas to go everywhere.
Oh wow!
So that might be part of it.
She's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah.
My other is, and it's an observation. So the more that I talk to people that have had this grounding in classical music, and then at the same time, within the next 2 or 3 years, have been exposed to music that is improvisational, whether that's in the church or jazz or whatever, I find that they are the most innovative and creative people. So it was so interesting to me to hear you talk about, I think, what did you call those things? Dub something? And yeah, and to hear you talk about, certainly, obviously, there's something very unique about it, but even in bringing it back and the restoration, I would imagine there's some innovation, technology, and some interesting thought bridges that you have to make in order to make that happen. And I know that's not necessarily maybe where you want to go in the conversation, Valerie, but it's just interesting to me because I think that's one of the things that music does that I wish more and more people would understand. There are so many skills that you learn at an early age that you start to see it in your adult life and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, it's the reason why, like, my son plays the guitar, and it's just, he wants to be on stage, he wants to be in musicals and things, and he's been saying that since he could speak almost. And it was one of those where, you know, when you ask your child, oh, what do you want to be? And it's like, I want to be on stage. It's like, okay, like, you know, he wanted to be an actor. It's like, what, being on TV? It's like, no, on stage. It's like, you know, at 3. Really? That okay, well, you know, I'll you know, maybe it'll change, you know, over the next, no, but he's 16 now, and he's always been focused. That's what he wants to do. So, but you notice when they start playing music and started to interact with music, not just listening to it, but, you know, creating it themselves, other things flourish. You know, his writing has gotten a lot better. His understanding of math is really good. You know, and then partly because of, I don't know if you guys remember, Multiplication Rock. Do you remember that?
Multiplication Rock.
Yeah, it was commercials. They had the other one as well. They had like Conjunction Junction and all
Yeah,
that.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But there was the grammar side, but there was also a math one.
Mm.
And you know the De La Soul song, 3 is a magic number.
Mm-hmm.
That sample was from one of those.
Okay.
But I started playing those to him when he was really young, and he liked the songs, so he learned how to multiply to 12 at 4 years old. So it was like, okay, would I like him to be an accountant? Yeah, but
Really? I mean, but you know, you pointed to this, Jeremy, earlier, right? This idea that you had also a track that was going to lead you towards a more, you know, maybe like a business, right? Much more professional skills in like the business world.
Yeah.
And music was like always like in the, like kind of to Lexie's point, like the soundtrack, right, of your life was always running beneath that. Yeah. And I think that's the same with life. I think, you know, that oftentimes we want to focus on the melody, but really it's the bass line that's kind of always like, right? I know, right? I was like, where's this going? But I love it. But it's like the bass line that carry us, that always supports us. And I know for me, music has always been a big part of life, not just because of the cleaning and stuff, but you know, I'm from Panama, and I remember to this day listening to salsa music, you know, because you know that Latin music was the most prevalent, and like cars would drive by like blaring salsa. So I hear the salsa beat, and it like reminds me of home. Now living in Texas, that I miss that. We don't hear that as often. Hip hop doesn't have that same thing for me, although there's some things in hip hop that I really enjoy. But there's something about that Latin beat that like, yes. And then because of our travel, Jeremy, we talked about being up with people. We were out in different countries, but we had people from different parts of the world. I started to hear music from different cultures in a different way. It was no longer about the language. Now it was just like about the humanity behind music. I mean, I was telling Lexie earlier this week, for whatever reason, Japanese pop has been like my thing. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I just heard this band and they're amazing. And their music is now waking me up in the morning. So I made it my alarm, right? I always have music as my alarm, but I'm so present that music is always going to be there, regardless of what your son decides to do in his career. Yeah, you know, whatever theater, whatever's calling to him about the theater, the experience of it, the emotion of it will likely always be a part of it. And and to your point, Lexie, that it gives us an opportunity to not get stuck with it having to have a certain form. All three of us can have a really meaningful experience with music and use it to leverage so many aspects of our lives. When I was in college too, I have CDs, I had mini discs, I have cassettes, I have like all of that. Yeah. And yet what I do, is really connect with other people. I have these types of conversations. Yeah. Anyway, I think there's so much that music will provide regardless of what we do in our actual expression.
Like that's like that appreciation of other music was something. I mean, as I said, I'm from Bermuda, where when I was younger, if you weren't listening to reggae, it was pretty much nothing else. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, you like, nah, turn that off, put this right. As a general rule in my experience. But what the classical grounded did for me was create a way for me to look past what instruments are being used and to look at the basics of it. So it's like, I never say any music's terrible. Like, I mean, I might not like it particularly, but I know that how it's made, how it's come together, and the fact that it's been recorded and I can hear it just outside of, I can never call it that because somebody put a lot of their life and their time and their soul into that, regardless of what it is. So like I was doing a lot of live gigs. So, I was working for a venue. So whoever came through the door, that's who I was mixing that night, that type of thing. So I've done everything from heavy rock up to hip hop and everything else. So what I found was I had to find something within the music that I liked. Regardless of everything else, like, the screaming guitar and stuff, I might not be into that, but the way that bass player is going, you know what I mean? I don't understand this thing called mathcore, but the drummer is killing it. You know what I mean? So I always found something within it that I like, System of a Down is one of them. and for me, it was just that guy's voice. Everything else melted away. It was just his voice. It was like, wait, what is he doing with his voice? And then find out, so it led me to find out more about him. And then you find out how he's actually used his cultural voice to create this music for other people. And that's I like just juxtaposition. That's my other favorite thing in music. It's, when you get something like, just as a joke, Mongolian throat singing with, with some badass beat, it's like
I'd be your next thing.
Well, and that's the interesting perspective, right, that DJs now bring. I mean, I think at one point, DJs, you guys weren't necessarily appreciated as much because it was just, did they kill it as far as the atmosphere that was set in the club? But, now it's really evolved to you're a music historian, curator, and creators. And the way you are able to say, okay, this house beat is an homage to that jazz album and bring it all together over this particular beat, and people may just be dancing their asses off, but there's some in the crowd that are like, oh my God, I know what he just did there. I mean, that's what music does on all those different levels, right? There's the one level where it's just, you're just appreciating the atmosphere. And then there's the other level where, especially if it's hip hop, that there are different plays on words and things that are going on. And then, there's just is the bass line killing it, and so I don't know, that's the thing that I love about music.
But that's exactly it. As a DJ, it's coming back to the point of, it doesn't really matter how well you DJ. But it is that, like, I do appreciate, because some of the places that I play in are really small and whatever, but they give me free reign to play whatever I want, so I'll do, like, that's what it was. Last weekend, I was in a place called Birdie's, and I was kind of bored of what I was playing because I had to play to a certain kind of vibe and whatever else. And so I was playing, and, because it's still kind of pandemic-y times, it was kind of empty, and, and it was a Monday night, so people were going to work the next day. So I was just playing for about 5 people in the whole place. So I was playing something, and I was like, I'm just going to put this a cappella in this just to make it interesting for myself. And I did it, and they're like all excited. I'm like, isn't that, but it is that you have to, like, as a DJ, like, now, and because of, like, at least here, most of the clubs are basically the same place. You know what I mean? They play the same songs, they play the same type of music. They say, just because the way that the crowds are, people are very, I want it now. I'm not worried about what type of music's playing. And basically you are creating, and because a lot of clubs are close together now, you're basically creating a soundtrack for the whole night. So it has to be somewhat the same, in my experience recently. But as a DJ from the older school, I won't say old school because I'm not that.
We're getting closer. We're getting close.
When I had to play vinyl, when there was no digital DJ, when you basically had what was in your box, that's when you had to curate a lot more what you were going to play, because especially if you were playing with multiple guys, you had to know, okay, if he plays that, I need to have an alternative, because everybody had basically the same stuff in those places. So you had to be able to draw from outside of what you would normally draw, or, that's why I have, the Rolling Stones and everything else. It's just sometimes you gotta play that.
Mix it up.
But that's exactly it. Show people the way out of their box. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's good.
Yeah, I'm gonna play this. This is the type of music I'm playing now. But watch this. I'm gonna mix this song in. And what is that? And it's like, it's that. You didn't know you like that, did you? You know what I mean?
I think that's one of the things I appreciate about the two of you, and my experience of you as it relates to music, is because you do bring something different, something new. I saw a post on Facebook. It's been a while back. We've committed to doing this podcast months ago. And I saw this post and I'm like, I got to bring this up during this interview because I want to know what they would say. And it was one of these posts that had like, pick a concert. You know what I'm talking about? They would say, all right, so I'm going to show you. I'm going to show, and I think it'll come up. Hang on a second here. I'm going to show you. There's 2 different concerts that I'd like for you guys to choose. All right, here we go. It is. Here we go. The one in pink. So on the list, for those who are listening, the pink side is Tupac, Nas, Aaliyah, Michael Jackson, Chris Brown, R. Kelly, Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, Maxwell, and Next. On the blue side, Biggie, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Prince, Usher, Tyrese, Lauryn Hill, Mary J. Blige, Music Soul Child, and 112. All right, so go for it. Which one do you pick and why?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, yeah, this is so easy for me. Blue, all the way, all the way. And for one name and one name only.
It's the same name.
And I'm going to give the story before and this kind of alludes to or answers what Valerie alluded to about me in her intro. So my sister and I, we invest in our concerts. We say, who would we be willing to pay minimum of $100 to go see at this point in our lives? And we were literally waiting for this man to come back down to the United States, and then passed. To say that we were like heartbroken, we were heartbroken. Because Prince, I've seen Michael Jackson, I've seen Lauryn Hill, I've seen, Sade, and some of the others on our list, but I never got a chance to see Prince perform.
And that was the only reason I had that, and I got myself into trouble for saying, yeah, the blue one, easily. It doesn't even matter who else is on there. I don't care. I only want to see him. I've not seen Michael Jackson. I've seen him, I've seen all the TV concerts. I don't need to see him. Okay. You know what I mean? But Prince, because I know, and that's the other thing about being a tech. That's how I've come back around to these things. Being a tech, you look at production, you know what I mean? And a Michael Jackson show, for me personally, and that's the other thing about music, it's all very personal.
That very quiet, very cautiously with whatever you're about to say.
Personally, I don't need to see him live. His concert would be the same live or on TV for me. You know what I mean? It's like, because it's so well produced.
Yes, I get that. I get that. Yeah.
A Prince show, you will not know what you're gonna get.
Unequivocally.
And that's what it is. I mean, I've seen Usher. This is something you should invest in. There's a festival in Holland. Whenever it happens again, it's called North Sea Jazz Festival.
Okay.
Go, just go to, I went to that. And I saw the reason we went was, again, these shows is we were gonna go see Erykah Badu in London, but the prices went out the roof. And the tickets went quickly. She only did 2 shows. They only did 2 because the first one sold out so quickly. And I was like, look, it's gonna cost us. It was gonna cost me about almost £200 to go see Erykah Badu. We've seen it before, but that's not the point. So I was like, well, why don't we look? She's not going to come to England, do 2 shows, and then go back to the States. Yeah. She's got to be doing more in Europe. And for £200, we might as well go and make a weekend out of it.
Yeah.
Found this thing, North Sea Jazz Festival, and she was performing there. So we're like, okay, we'll do that. The first name on the first night of the lineup that I saw was Usher and the Roots.
Yeah.
I've seen the Roots before, but I thought it was gonna be like Usher's performing and the Roots is performing. But
they did a set together.
Backed by the Roots.
Yeah.
And I say this that's probably the best show I've ever seen in my entire life.
I went to the Roots picnic a couple of years ago. It's their festival, that they curate. Any hip hop head, you've got to go see their festival, because to see almost the jazz version of hip hop being performed, where you have improvisation, and Black Thought is like the god.
Oh.
And so to see them in live and in person, and they curate so many incredible creatives, is just amazing. But yeah.
But the other people on that same first day, Grace Jones,
oh wow,
Mary J. Blige, JoJo, and it wasn't JoJo, it was the other English.
For the young people, not JoJo Siwa, okay?
there were, but then on the other side there was Robert Glasper was there.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He was there, obviously. De La Soul did there. Prince, it was the year after Prince died. That was it. It was 2017. Wow. And the New Power generation, the New Power.
They were doing it tour.
But we missed that because we wanted to see what was on one of the main. This is the type of thing it was. But just Google it and look and see what the lineup is. And it's very cheap. Like if you buy tickets early enough, they're like 90 euros for all 3 days.
Wow, that is. Wow. Yeah, we just bought Austin City Limits tickets, and they weren't that cheap. I miss the days of cheaper music festivals.
Yeah, and it's still, I mean, we ended up paying about 300 euros for our tickets, but we got in really late. But even 300 euros for that was just
the quality of
people. Like people we missed. We saw the beginning of Solange because we wanted to see somebody else. It was, and then Trombone Shorty. I don't know if you've ever heard of.
For sure. No, I love second line music.
He was there. We walked in, like the first day we walked in and he was on stage. That was our introduction to this festival.
That's a great way to start. I love second line.
Yeah, and it was him, and there was a keyboardist that was on tour with Lauryn Hill, and I remember him, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Have you seen Lauryn Hill? So Valerie may remember.
Heard your stories about Lauryn Hill. But no.
I tell people, I don't care what you think, what people say about Lauryn Hill. If you call yourself a fan of hip hop, you have got to go see her live.
See, she was.
But why is that, Lexie? Hang on, Jerry.
Because she is an incredible hip hop artist and singer, especially her hip hop, all of her rapping that she does. She is incredible, and she does not give the recognition and praise that she should for what she does.
See, I'm one of those people. I missed Lauryn Hill.
Okay.
Purposely. She was in Manchester, which is only down the road. She was in doing a tour. And I could have gotten a ticket easily, but I was like, I don't want to be upset by her. Like, I don't want to get my ticket for the show. And because they have very hardcore curfews here, it's like it's 11 o'clock, that's it, you know. So I don't want to get my ticket for Lauryn Hill. Hopes all up that I'm gonna see Lauryn Hill, and then she shows up at 10:30, does half an hour, and goes. I didn't want that in my life. And what annoys me the most is that Diggable Planet's open for her. That pissed me off more. It was like, okay, I would have paid for that.
You want for Diggle, yeah.
But so I didn't want to get ruined by that. But what I found out was that because she had just done a show in Paris, and the reviews of that, because she had done her whole show, I feel like it's the same problem I have with Mos Def. I'll never see Mos Def again. I'll never pay for a Mos Def show again because he's done that to me 4 or 5 times. So I won't go. I won't pay. Let's put it that way. So because I don't want to be resentful to them. After they've done with it. I understand. I get it. You need to be in the vibe to do it. I get all of that. I get it. But I paid £30 for this ticket, and if I don't get to see you, that's just gonna annoy me. So I've avoided certain. Like I've seen them enough. Like I've seen Mos Def a lot. Yasin Bey. I've seen him quite a bit. And I went to Berlin to see Dave Chappelle once. last year, just before all this kicked off last year, and Yes and Bay closed. Because I don't know if you ever get to see Chappelle, do that.
Yeah. I need to. I want to.
On the list.
We generally will have a surprise musical guest. And for us, it was Yes and Bay. So it was cool. Like, yeah.
I love it.
So we know, and then it looks like you guys probably have more conversation to have about this difference and how you go about selecting who it is that you would pay money for and who wouldn't. I'm curious now, as what are you listening to now? So if somebody out there is inspired by what you're talking about and the influences that the two of you have had, what should be on the playlist? Or what's on your playlist right now that's giving you life?
You go ahead.
Why are you laughing, Lexie?
Laughing because you use words like inspire and I'm so ratchet.
Can't be ratchet. And it doesn't have to be inspired like you're listening to Mahalia Jackson.
It inspires me, okay?
Yeah, what makes you shake it? What gives you, what?
Actually right now, truth be told, so right now I'm loving Rihanna. I love her vibe. And I think when I hear her music, I think, especially it's been her early music and I'll see her videos pop up. I'm like, this woman is absolutely killing the game right now. And it's that energy and that, like, I don't know, there's just something about her that I just love. And so I've just been listening to a lot of Rihanna right now. I actually listen to the Tiny Desk concerts on NPR. So music listening is different for me now. So sometimes it is just straight music, but a lot of times I've got the YouTube going, and so I can listen about different artists share their music. And so because I've been listening to Tiny Desk, Kirk Franklin's Tiny Desk concert, I listen to it over and over. And so they're different just experiences like that that I'm just really loving.
So for me, I don't listen to a lot of music at home. It's a very strange thing. And some DJs will understand what I mean by that. It's like, I go out and I play music, but when I get home, sometimes I just want to veg out, But I find like two interesting things. I've really liked The Masked Singer.
The show.
Yeah, they had an English version as well. And what I like, the thing is, it's not necessarily because it's celebrities and it's just, I like listening to people's tones. And like the first the Masked Singer they did here, the one that I caught, the first season I caught, I spent my whole time just like, that sounds like this person. That really does sound like, and trying to listen specifically to the tone of how their voices work without like knowing who it was. Like obviously they had the big ones, like they had, there's the old soul singers that they had on, and you could immediately know who that is. But they had Khalees on the one in England. So it was just like, when she first started singing, because I missed all the clues and all of that type of stuff. And I was just like, well, that sounds like Khalees. And she got through really fast, so I had to keep watching it. So eventually I was like, okay, I'm just listening to the tone of people's voices. So that's the one thing. But generally, if I'm going out to walk or I need to go somewhere, it's Dungeon Family. Like I have a playlist on my phone, which is just Outkast, Goody Mob, CeeLo on his own, Big Boy on his own, remixes. Like I have that in a playlist. And basically that's what is like generally almost daily. I haven't changed it in months sort of thing. That's what I listen to, because if I was to say I had a favorite band, it'd be Outkast. So, that's me. But generally, any Dungeon Family.
Dungeon Family is the name of a group?
That's the name of their collective. So
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's like Dungeon Family would be like the outskirts of that is like Killer Mike and him and a couple of like Slim Calhoun, I think it was one of them. Okay. But then Goody Mob, which is CeeLo and his crew, and then Outkast.
Got it.
But those are the core.
I may ask you guys to write them out for me, so that way I can share the playlist with people who may not know some of the artists or might be re-inspired, right? To like, oh yeah, I remember that.
That's
I have a selfish question here, and I don't know if I can articulate it. And Lexie, I'm very aware you were saying how you be careful about what you say and what you criticize. What are your thoughts on Beyonce and her impact in music?
personally, I've always seen everything as little cut up pieces. So she is what she is. She is basically Michael Jackson in 2021. Let's call it like that. You know what I mean? Whatever she does, people try and copy. She has access to the greatest every part of the production. So she's an artist in that sense. Kind of the same way I look at Kendrick Lamar as almost like a Prince figure, because he just does what he's gonna do. He doesn't care what anybody else thinks. Obviously, Beyonce, there's a lot of image around her, but that doesn't mean she's not talented and she doesn't do what she does very well, I guess is what I yeah.
Lexie, what about for you?
I feel the same way. I think sometimes I think a lot of times the criticism that I see targeting her is folks that take a very myopic view or a very singular view of some of the things that she does. But I think when you step back and see the moves that she has made at every point in her career, it has been smart business move after smart business move. Some people say even marriage is a business move, is politics. And when you marry, you know, Jay-Z, that is also a smart business move. And so I can't help but respect everything, just about everything that she's done, because one, she is a woman from Texas. Two, it's just been smart, you know, even aligning with Disney. I'm not going to say I like everything that she did with the Lion King soundtrack, but we got Brown Skin Girl and so many priceless images from that soundtrack. And so I think you can look at either things at a very myopic view and be very hypercritical, or you can step back and give the woman her flowers.
All right, I'll take that. So I think for me, I've always wondered, like, I don't know what people are so enamored with. I don't listen to her music very much. I mean, there's like when the record you pulled out, the Survivor album of that, I was like, yeah, I remember those days. Destiny's Child, that was on my playlist for the longest. And then when she went solo, there were maybe a couple of songs, and other than that, just never, like, why? But I get that the artistry, and I think the business savvy of the artist is, I think, what I see now. So I appreciate you saying about, I did have, and I probably do still have a myopic view of what she does.
That's the other thing. I think we think of her as the Destiny's Child Beyonce, but we're not thinking of her in relation to people like Celine Dion. That's the type of level I think that she's at. She's not the R&B act. She's the pop act. You know what I mean? And I think that's the comparisons we should make when we talk about somebody like her. That's why we have.
And I'm not as familiar with what Celine does in Canada, but we've got to think of, and I don't know if she thought this early in her career. I would say her dad definitely thought about this early in her career. Music is a tool. It's the launch pad for the brand or business of Beyonce. And so, you know, if you like her music, really isn't necessarily the point. Did enough people buy it so that she can then make the moves that she wants business-wise? Whether that's, you know, if you see all that she does with Ivy Park, And that's a lot of philanthropy, but there's also business moves behind that.
Yeah.
And
And so just being able to understand that kind of level of thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, I'm not even thinking on that level of things in that sense. I mean, because music has become that type of business. If you're not making business moves like that on your own, then you're not going to really get anywhere in music today, because it's not structured that way anymore. But
well, I think it ties back, Jeremy, to what you were saying earlier. And we're going to start wrapping the conversation. You guys could talk offline, because I know there's more. There's more. I can hear it and feel it already. But Jeremy, I think to your point, going back to what you were saying earlier about even with your son and the desire that he has to perform, but at the same time, your desire for him to be, to be provided for, right? To be stable. And I think going back to what you just said, Lexie, about Beyonce, that music is a launch pad for so many things. I mean, I think for us personally, it's been a launch pad for inspiration. It's been a launch pad for desire to learn and to express ourselves. So entertainment in some cases, for some is a launch pad to make a name for themselves, the launch pad to create the revenue needed to, spend money in a different part of life. So I think all of this, I mean, music is the baseline of life, period, regardless of what the expression is, and regardless of what it allows us, gives us opportunity to do. But I'm curious, one of the things about music that attract me the most is I love great harmonies and any type of music. I remember there's a Spanish group called Siempre Así, which has a style, the Sevillana, so from Seville, Spain. And the thing that caught me about them was how they harmonize. I've watched them in concert and it wasn't all that great. I'm like, I'm really underwhelmed right now. So we'll not do that again. But I do have all the records, right? I love a show like Bruno Mars because of the life that he brings to the stage and the music and his moves and the swagger, like all of that. But more than anything, I've so enjoyed watching and listening to the two of you harmonize and the swagger that you have around music. So I'm curious, what's been this experience for you, having a conversation with a stranger on a public platform about something that you are interested or passionate about?
You can go for it.
Well, sure. Well, music, when you have a love for music, he's not a stranger. Like, we've got a common language already. And it's just a matter of finding out what are the nuances and color around that common language, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't even feel, I mean, it's been easy. It's been easy because we already know that,
And then we both have similar backgrounds into it. So, everything else is just, flavor, really, isn't it? I mean, and you pull out a flute. My sister played the flute, so it's. I mean, I stole her flute from her, but I haven't. But it wasn't easy.
Why'd you do that, Jeremy?
She didn't have it. So, but that's the type of you find that people who've had that, especially people who've had classical training in any sort of way. We all have the same. Oh yeah, you remember, not necessarily getting wrapped on the knuckles, but you also had that rigid. This is what it needs to be. So if it's not that, it's not right. So after that, we all have this like burst of, I don't want to keep to that tempo. So we know these things about each other just by knowing, oh, you started when you were young with classical. I know exactly what that is. I know exactly how that feels. So it makes all the other steps to make a relationship easier, because your baseline is pretty solid because you both know the same things, What
surprised you guys the most about this conversation?
I wasn't surprised, if I'm honest.
No surprises.
Yeah, ditto. Yeah, no surprises. I think it's just the reaffirmation, right? One, that music is the best. Everybody should do it. You don't have to stay in it, but the experience of it informs the rest of your life.
Yeah,
it just does.
And for me, it might not be music for everybody. So, but it is find that thing, because there is always a thing. For me, it was just happened to be music. For the other person, it might just be, you had a trampoline in your backyard, so you really got into gymnastics. You know what I mean? It's just find that thing, because when you get to be, you know, years old.
Whatever. No, we're not at the age where you would have to cough into your hand. We're not there yet.
Whatever.
10 years, but not yet.
You get to that point where you're just like, you look back and you're like, what did I do? You know, but you have something that you might still do now. And that's the thing for me. It's like, I still do something that I did when I was younger. And that it's brought me out of a lot. Like, I started the house coach sessions thing because I was so bored in my house. You know what I mean? So why not just do that? And I can't leave, I can't go anywhere, nothing's open, so I'm gonna just play music, and that pulls me out of a lot of funks. So
yeah. Cheers to that. Cheers to that. What final words do you have for each other or for the audience?
Send me links.
Send you links to what?
Like you said, you sing and you play to get, like, I want to see some of those things. That type of links, like, and yeah, hopefully one day I'll come to Texas, because
absolutely, Jeremy. I was thinking one day I'll come to the UK and be at some of these festivals and
we'll go to North Sea Jazz together.
There we go. There we go.
Be up there in Rotterdam.
Yeah,
have a good time watching some amazing people, because I can't tell you again.
I know he's gonna get excited again. All right. Get it.
But
that's it. That's the goal. Go to North Sea Festival, everybody. Lexie and Jeremy will be there. They're gonna lead tours.
Yeah.
All the stages.
I had so much musical fun in my life.
I love it.
Musical fun. Oh, I like that. Have some musical fun.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful, first of all, the two of you for saying yes to being on the podcast. But more importantly, just the level of energy. I mean, it did feel like a jazz improv in this podcast, the entire conversation. And it flowed. And most of it because you brought your passion for music, your passion for sharing it with other people, and the connection that was, I mean, it was so evident, it was tangible, the connection that you two have, not only with what you were talking about in the music, but also with each other and in the conversation. So thank you so much for bringing that. It was so much fun. And I'm like, I'm going to go listen to some tunes now.
Yeah, I might have to do that.
Yeah, but I do want your playlist, because I think it would be great for
sure.
Please open up some others' experience of music. For the rest of you who've been listening in today, thank you all so much for tuning into this episode. This and many more episodes are available to you when you subscribe. If you go to www.notquitestrangers.com, you there will be able to get notified whenever a new episode is out, and also make sure you don't miss a single thing. We also have gatherings on a quarterly basis where we bring past guests together and you get a chance to interact with them. You know, we call it our behind the scenes, if you will. So Jeremy and Lexie will be a part of one of those. And I encourage anyone that's subscribed will get an invitation, right? So Lexie, Jeremy, again, thank you so much. You guys did fantastic.
Yeah.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Such a treat. Everyone else, have a wonderful rest of the day.
You've been listening to the podcast Not Quite Strangers. Be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite video or podcast platform. And for more information and content, go to notquitestrangers.com. See you next time.